Hello and welcome to another Sunday live stream. I pushed the time back a little bit, experimenting some with different times. Noon time today, this Sunday, and thinking quite possibly that the midweek live stream, maybe I'll push that back to an evening time. I put out a survey post on YouTube, so if you haven't already, check out I think it's on your community tab, and check out that post and put in your vote for your best time or window of time for live streams and viewing. So thought I'd talk a little bit today about some projects I'm working on for the YouTube channel. Also, blues. So I started out there with a blues in G, and so I thought I'd talk a little bit about that. All right. Hey, Chris, how's it going? Welcome. Good to see you. And your book, shout out to Chris, and check out his channel, Jazz Guitar Neophyte. Just arrived here today, and took a glance through it. So I'm looking forward to checking this out more. So thank you for that, Barry Harris. Jeffrey, welcome. Hope you all are doing well. So I'll talk a little bit about the blues today, and I thought I'd talk a little bit about the upcoming video that I have planned on a George Benson tune, Clockwise. It's a super fast tune, and got the rhythm section kind of together. It's gonna be a organ, bass, drums, guitar kind of group. And so I laid down the bass track for it last night, and I've got the drums. Those are programmed in, and then I've got the organ kind of programmed in, which does pretty much, at least in my recording, does pretty much what I'm doing on the guitar. So it's just kind of doubled. So I'm really excited about putting that together. Not sure exactly when it will be finished, but it's in process. But that tune is a blues, and blues in G. So I thought we'd talk a little bit about that today if you want to follow along. And I will mention that I'm streaming vertically and horizontally. So if I'm talking to some folks that you don't see in the chat, that's why. Welcome to join me on either one. Okay, so we have a G13 chord, and if you notice when I'm playing it up front, I'm playing pretty slow tempo, and I'm going to the 4 chord on measure 2. I'm playing C9, and then I'm going back to the 1 chord, and I'm doing a little walk down to the 4 chord. Now on the on this tune, and what's really kind of cool about the blues is you learn the blues and you get a lot of songs. So one progression, a lot of, maybe not songs, but tunes that you can play. So like Clockwise, but a ton of tunes that you can do. Good morning, Amos. Welcome. And so yeah. Anyhow, we go to this. This is a real common thing. Go to just a half step above the 4. So we can think of this as a sharp 4 relative to the tonic. Diminished 7. Right? So we have this diminished 7th chord. And in the podcast that I released yesterday. I talk a little bit about this. But the melody kind of has this little walk down chromatic from the notes separated by minor thirds. So that's kind of an interesting thing that you can kind of do in general is take an idea and move it around by thirds on that moment of the progression. Amos says, hit that like button. Let's help out Jim's channel. Yeah, thanks so much for mentioning that. And I will kind of cue up our fancy little thumb. Subscribe. Absolutely does help out the channel tremendously. So thank you so much for that. Welcome, Paul, from Des Moines, Iowa. Awesome. Awesome. Okay. All right. Thanks, Christopher, as well. Awesome. Yeah. Yeah, actually the interaction on the channel does really help all interactions, liking and certainly subscribing and leaving comments. And yeah, we'll all help each other out. Because I know folks have channels out there too. So, all right, what year is this? Ibanez. That's a good question. Let's see. All right, I think it's 2017. I don't know exactly how to read the serial numbers, but I believe it's 2017. And that would make sense. Because if I've had it for I think 3 or 4 years, and maybe it was made a few years before that. So that would kind of make sense, but I did get it new, so I don't know the exact year, but that's my best guess. Probably sometime late 2017 or 2010s. They've since renamed this model the AS2000. And it's the model that John Schofield used before he had his signature model developed, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. So let's keep going with the pression. Now, when I was playing it there, I was going, doing a little kind of walk down. Which I like to do, and it's pretty common. Which you just do 1, 4, 3, 6, and then you're in your 2, and then 5, and then into the 1. So Amos has a question. What strings do you use in the gauge? So I've been trying out these Dogal strings. I believe these are Dogal strings, and they're 11 gauge, I believe. So I usually use either 10 or 11. I think I prefer 11, but sometimes I go back and forth a little bit. So yeah, but I often use Tomastic flat wounds. They are flat wounds. Sometimes I use the D'Addario Chrome flat wounds. I don't like the chromes when they're brand new, I think. So that's why I kind of tend not to use those. But I think in general, they're pretty good. So I seem to recall that sort of opinion or preference. So let me know if you have any similar things. But yeah, I generally like flat wounds better. Okay, peek inside the top of the F hole. The model should be there. Yeah, AS200 And then, yeah, it's got the serial number. So I think that means 17. F17, I'm guessing it's 2017. So Chris says Tomastics are great and they last long. Yeah, that's the thing. Folks always ask me, how often should you change your strings? And usually I say, well, 6 months is probably good, year, but I find I don't change them very often, and I find that they do really last a long time. So yeah, so 2017 confirmed. So yeah, 2017. I'm really happy with this guitar. It came with a little divot in the fingerboard, and so that was disappointing. But I searched up on the internet how to deal with it, and I filled it in. I ordered some chemical of some kind on the internet, and just kind of filled it in. Went through this process of just kind of filling the divot. If I remember correctly, fill a little bit, let it dry, fill a little, let it dry, and then sand it even. And it's been great. So yeah. So yeah, we've got that little walk down. So that's a nice change to play, and then you can do all sorts of cool turnarounds. You could do that. You can do 1, 6, 2, 5, or you can just do a simple. So going through, playing, sometimes it's nice to play just super basic, simple blues. And then other times it can be fun to, change up the progression and do some different things that are kind of fun to do. There towards the end, I played a kind of a cliche little blues line there, which is basically sixths. Just do a little back and forth on that. Move it on fret 7, down a half step, down a half step from there, and then doing major 6, so minor 6th intervals, and then we've got the G and the B here. Or sorry, major 6 and minor 6. Still waking up. All right. So yeah, let's see. We've got chord tones. Let's see. Surf tube says, hello, Mr. Ellis. Can you do a mini lesson on incorporating chord tones, single tones on a basic 1, 6, 2, 5? Sure. Yeah, I'll talk a little bit about that. So there are a lot of variations to that progression. This actually ties into what I was doing here a minute ago. So if you're doing 1, 6, 2, 5, if you stay a little more, well, let's say we have a 1 in the blues anyway. Let's say G. You would play like a G7. We could play E7, maybe A minor, and then D7, right? So then you could play something like that. So playing arpeggios. So a good method on this, which I've recommended this a bit on recent videos, is to, let's say you're playing arpeggios. Let's say you play something like that. Try to go up or down to the nearest chord tone of the next chord, let's say, which is maybe E7. So you could try that. So or you can stay on the same tone, because that's a tone common to both G7 and E7. So or go lower, and then go to the next chord tone. So like G7, E7, A minor, D7, and then G. So that's what I would recommend as far as practice. And then you can get into all sorts of different types of 1, 6, 2, 5s. You can mess with the chord qualities. So there I'm playing a 1, 6, but this is a 7 sharp 9, 2, but now I've made it dominant 7th with 13, and then the D7 sharp 9. So then you can mess with the chord qualities a bit and play that. So you can do make them all 7th chords, move them through. Okay, Paul, let's see. Let me get back here. We've got a little bit behind on things. So Paul says, do you have any tips on avoiding repeating phrases and or pattern playing during improvisation? Well, maybe one approach would be to take some of the patterns that you're doing and create variations, because that can really grab the ear. So if you find you're playing something that sounds a little repetitive, maybe have it trail off in a different direction, and then create variation. So that can be actually a strong thing, and to do into your to your advantage, to take some of the patterns and create variety or have them trail off in different ways. So yeah, I would recommend that. Chris says Grant Green was notorious for using blues chords and jazzing it up, and didn't give him his signature tone. Yeah, and check out those Blue Note recordings and see if you can lift some of those up, and introduce them into your playing. Surf Tube says, I think it's always great. Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. I hope that explanation helped. But yeah, you can do some interesting things with some patterns that you do. Like if you play a pattern, let's say you play D7, right? Maybe try to take it up a minor third, and then resolve it. So you can use some of those patterns to your advantage. So if you have a little pattern like this, get a little outside on it, and then resolve it to G or something. So you have land it on these two tones of the G7. Right, so those are some things to do. On the flip side of that, you may try to work on just expanding the library of phrases that you have going, and just maybe add over time some different sounds to those. Okay, Amos says, good question. It's true about Grant, says Paul. Have an influence on players coming up. Paul says, thanks, Amos. After 50 years of playing jazz guitar, still gets me sometimes. Yeah. Getting ideas. Chris says he's getting ideas for homework, improvising, autumn leaves. Awesome. That last part of the tune, yeah, following some of the chord progressions, right? So using some arpeggios will really help. And one other thing, Chris, and this applies to everybody, is to really practice things in the context of harmony. So spend some time playing a little bit with a backing track, and especially if you can loop sections, if you can loop a certain chord sequence or one chord change, and really get in and try to master that. See if you can come up with a variety of ways of playing lines through chord progressions. So for example, let's say we're going into this part of the sequence. See if you can kind of maybe start on a specific tone of E minor 7. Right. Following those what are called guide tones can really be a great place to work. Right. Okay. So finally got an iPad. Awesome. Installed iReal Pro. Yeah, so that's really great. I think if you tap and you hold a certain measure, and you can move scroll a certain number of measures on there, and loop sections. This is one thing I find really again and again, and it's whether it's classical guitar or jazz guitar or rock guitar or whatever, fusion, anything, is folks oftentimes take on too much at one time, right? Just focus on small things. And one strategy on this, whether you're working on playing through a whole chorus of a jazz tune, or playing a classical guitar piece, is go through it one time and then make notes on a piece of paper or mental notes or something where, okay, this didn't go well, this didn't go well, this didn't go well. Of course, give yourself some credit for what did go well, and then just isolate that. Or so for example, let's say you're working on autumn leaves and a certain part just feels vague, when you're improvising over it. You're just kind of, let's say, maybe just kind of faking a certain part of it, or just kind of getting in the neighborhood. I'm just going to zoom into that and focus on it and loop it. So how many different ways can you go through that same chord progression, as you do? Let's say that you just isolate that E minor to A7, and then start experimenting with variations. So sometimes in that chord progression, it goes to E flat, the tritone away from the A, right? So you say, okay. And see if you can crisscross, and hopefully as you set new goals all the time, see if you can gain the freedom on the neck to be able to move to different positions for the same chord progression. So E minor, E flat 7, 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 and just kind of move through, and so when practicing, when you isolate a specific thing, you create restriction. What ends up happening in your playing is you get more freedom, right? So when you practice or work on one real specific thing, one really small amount, one change in a tune, and you just restrict yourself even to one position, you'll see. So there, I'm just kind of mostly staying in one region of the neck. Then you can go kind of step by step and work through different different little sections, little windows. You create, like I said, little restriction, position, chord change, and then when you go to play more and more tunes, you just end up having more available to you instantaneously on the spot. So always kind of trying to balance that playing versus practicing, right? So and you also want to balance this on an enjoyment level. So give yourself a little fun sometimes, and then aim to get 10 or 15 minutes of some really intense heavy lifting, restrictive sort of practice, and then loosen things up a little bit, take breaks, do something simply for enjoyment. A lot of these results don't show up in one day. They may take days, weeks, months. So yeah, there we go. All right, so yep, works like a charm. Awesome, glad to hear it. Forcing yourself to improvise new phrases. Yeah, new phrases. Start on a different tone. If you find yourself always going to the third, try the fifth. Try the seventh of a given chord or anything, and explore it. All right, well, let me mention like and subscribe. If you'd like to support the channel further, check out our merch store, mugs and everything. Let's take a sip of coffee here. So this is one of my prototypes. But I've got mugs on the channel, as well as some digital books. So those are, I think, pretty cool. Billy asks, "Are you a professor at some university?" No, I'm entirely independent. I do actually teach at an academy, but aside from that, I am I have a local guitar studio, and I have a internet studio. Speaking of which, I'm going to be launching a member site here in the near future, so check out fretprints.com for more information on that. Okay, great question from Chris, who bought the coffee mug. Shout out to Chris. Thanks so much for supporting the channel. Yeah, so that one should be a G13 with a flat 9. I believe that is the chord symbol that ended up on there. It's a little bit of a tough one to play all at once. Fingerstyle works pretty well, but all the fingers kind of get tied up. So I would recommend trying the top 4 strings on that. So we've got the 13 part of it is between strings 4 and 2, and then we have the flat 9 on string 1. So yeah, on the and on the channel, I've got a variety of few different ones, but the watermark on the side of this video, I think that's the same. That's the same one. So that's kind of a cool chord to do. So we've got all that. Another inversion of that up here. So it's kind of a cool chord because it doesn't fit in a lot of the different scales that we commonly use. So you might consider thinking of the mode of C harmonic major on this one. Harmonic major has a few modes that that are pretty cool and interesting for dominant sevenths, and so one really fruitful area to focus on dominant sevenths, and when you're looking at different chord collections. Chris said, so call it the gym chord from here on. Awesome. Yeah, so we've got that. It's interesting, this chord too, because if you put a different root on it, let's say D flat, then you get the D7 sharp, or sorry, excuse me, D flat 7 sharp 9. If it's got D flat in the bass, right? If you have G, it's that G13 flat 9. So that's definitely a fun one to play around with there. All right, well, I'm going to hang out here for about 10 more minutes. So let me know if you have any last minute questions or anything like that. Maybe I'll do a little playing. I'm gonna mute my mic, and I'll look for any more questions and comments. Okay, a couple of cool, kind of little interesting chords there at the end. Did a little bit of a chorus on Autumn Leaves there in E minor, and so check out this chord, really fun to end on. We have the E minor major 7. So on minor tunes, here's a real quick, fun tip for you if you're ending a tune. In minor, the E minor major 7 is a really nice choice. It sounds a little mysterious. If you're in, we talked about G7 and the blues in G. Try to end on a sharp 11. So we have the G9 with a sharp 11. So that's also a nice choice in with the dominant 7th. And as a related kind of thing, major 7 with a sharp 11 on let's say a ballad or something, tune like that, then that's a really nice choice as well. All right, Amos, thank you for the compliment there. I really do appreciate it. Thanks everybody for joining in today. I do really appreciate it. As you're looking around the chat, I'm sure folks, I know some folks have really cool channels of their own. So be sure to check out the community here on the chat and visit and subscribe to your friends and neighbors here on the internet. So yeah, you are most welcome, Chris. So yeah, here to support each other in our growth and everything. Keep an eye out for an upcoming video, and in the meantime, check it out. I've got did a couple shorts on George Benson's Clockwise. So check out those shorts, and that can kind of give you a head start on the up and coming video. Keep in mind this could be played at slower tempo, so no need to force the hand to go super fast. They are pretty close to, I think, 300 beats per minute. I clock them in at 294 beats per minute, so really fast. So you can play this, of course, at slower tempo. And one thing that's really cool that I think is fairly new, at least I just discovered it, is that YouTube has now created more fine-tuned speed settings. So if you hit the gear icon on one of my videos and it's just too fast right now, or the George Benson video on Clockwise, hit the gear icon and you can do all different percentages of tempo. So pretty cool practice tool there. Brick Wall Waterfall asks, have you ever played a baritone guitar? I don't think that I have. I'd like to. And I've heard one thing that Matheny does is he tunes the middle 2 strings an octave higher, relative to the typical tuning of a baritone guitar. And that seems to work really nicely for him. So something I'm definitely curious about and interested in. All right, everybody. Thanks for checking this out. And yeah, like and subscribe. Amos has not tried, interested in it. So I think later this week I will, let's see, maybe Wednesday, or well, this week is a funny week, isn't it? Because of New Year's, but later this week, I will probably try my midweek live stream at a later time. So hopefully everybody can come and check that out. Like one more little noodly thing here for a minute, and then I'll wrap up. All right, everybody, thanks once again. Have a great practice session today, and thanks so much for chatting with me. I really do appreciate it. Makes this fun for me as well. So thanks again, and I will see you all in the next one. Have a great practice session.